Tuesday and Merry Christmas, Sipsters. I guess I could say Merry Christmas Eve, if you're listening to this on the Tuesday before Christmas. I am currently wearing a Santa hat, even though you can't see me as you're listening to this. But I am here and I am ready for Christmas and for this Christmas episode. I had asked on Instagram, well, and actually through these episodes, I have asked, and I wanted to know if you had any special Christmas memories. I had mentioned that there is one Christmas that sticks out to me in my mind. When I look back on Christmas and I'm like, is there one that may have felt extra special? I had one come to mind, and I wanted to know if anybody else had memories like that, and if you would be willing to write them in. And I did get a few entries, so I am really grateful to have those, and I'm going to be sharing those today. It's funny, I feel like I need to have like an explanation of who's going to be on the podcast and then do my music and go to the story, but I don't need to do that because it's just me. So we're just going to get right into talking about Christmas memories, special Christmas memories. And I'm going to start by telling mine that I said was a very special Christmas. So growing up, we did not have very much money, my family. And I was always so grateful when I think back because my mom still made Christmas so special for me and for my siblings. And I can probably look back on every Christmas that I've had, as a child, and there was one thing that just felt extra special about that Christmas. And I remember, this is random, but one of my favorite treats as a kid, and honestly, still now too, I haven't had them for a while, but growing up, I would eat them a lot. They were a special treat. And they were Boston baked beans. So random. Does anybody else like those? I feel like I don't know anybody else that likes them. But I do. And in fact, I am thinking that Santa might need to bring me some of those. So hopefully I'll have some of those in my stocking, Santa, if you're listening. Anyway, I remember one Christmas I came out, and next to the stuff that was mine, I had a giant tub of Boston baked beans. And like all of us kids had just like a tub of our favorite treat. And I was so excited. I was like, this is literally the best Christmas gift ever. And I remember too, my sister loved cucumbers. I don't know if she still does. She probably does, but like loved them. And so one of her gifts one year, my mom told her that every week she would go to the store and she would buy my sister a cucumber. And like, so random, but my sister loved it. And my mom, she just always put so much thought behind those gifts. And one thing about my mom, love my mom, but she'll admit this, like, she is not a gift person. Giving gifts and thinking of gifts, like, it's really hard for her. And so these two, I'm like, she really put some thought into what us kids would love, and we all felt it, and they were so meaningful because it just showed how much she cared, and was trying to make a meaningful Christmas when she didn't really have a lot to give, And I also never remember feeling sad on Christmas either. Like, I never felt like I was missing out. We always knew we weren't going to have very much under the tree, but it was okay. Like, we loved our Christmases, and they were still always so special in my home. And I do feel like that was like a common sentiment among my siblings too. Like, we all just were so grateful for the things that we got, even when we knew that we weren't getting a lot. Like, we knew things were tough. Sorry, I'm rambling. Anyway, there was one year, I can't remember how old I was. I know it was either 4th or 5th grade, somewhere around there. And once again, we knew it was not going to be a very big Christmas. And I do remember waking up and we walked out and we had bikes which was huge. I don't think we had bikes at all at this point. Or did we have like little kid bikes? Anyway, I remember getting like a bike that was bigger, and I was so excited. We all got bikes, and it was like just felt so big. Anyway, so it was already like, wow, like what kind of Christmas is this going to be, you know? Anyway, so I remember we get our bikes, which is so exciting. We open up the presents that we have, and all of a sudden, like, we get a knock at the door, and we open up the door, and there is a giant black grocery bag. And we bring it inside, and it is just full of presents for me and my siblings. And it just like there was so many presents. We were all like, whoa. And we just opened it up, and it was so magical. And then we opened all the presents. We're all excited. As soon as we were done, there was another knock on the door. We opened the door, and there was another giant black grocery bag full of presents. And we were all like, what is happening? And so we bring it in. And once again, we are just in awe, opening all of these presents that are labeled to all of me and my siblings. And we open them up, and we were like, wow, like this is crazy. And I kid you not, the second we were done opening those presents, there was another knock on the door with another giant grocery bag full of presents. And this just kept happening. In fact, I called my mom just to see, like, you know, sometimes in your mind as a little kid, things get a little exaggerated. So I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, there was like 50 bags of presents. I didn't really think it was that many, but you know, I'm like, am I exaggerating? Like, did it only happen twice? And she was like, no, it happened like 4 times. We would open these presents, we'd get a knock at the door, we'd go out, there'd be more presents. And we were all just shocked at what was happening. And because again, like we had never had something like this where we had so many. And it's interesting too, like who knows even how many presents we ended up getting. And I don't remember a single thing. Well, I was going to say I do actually because we got the bikes, but I don't remember anything else that I got that year. But it was just so crazy and amazing and magical, and we were all just so grateful. But it wasn't even about the presents. It was about the fact that there were people out there that were serving us and cared enough about us to provide us with this huge Christmas that we just never would have gotten, nor did we expect. But it was like, wow, somebody did that for us. And I thought it was the same person in my mind. I'm like, wow, how did these people know that we just finished opening these presents? And they're knocking on our door again. Like, are they spying on us? Like, how do they know this? Anyway, I called my mom again, as I said, and she was like, I'm grateful that each family that dropped off presents didn't know that we had already gotten another bag, because it probably just made it feel extra special to them that they were providing us with this Christmas. And I was like, wait a second, I thought it was the same person. She's like, no, I'm pretty sure they were like 4 different families all provided us with Christmas gifts. And I was like, whoa. But really, like, they all contributed to this like magical Christmas when we were a kid. We ended up having that happen to us a couple of times. I remember it happened again when I was a little bit older. I think I was in middle school that we had this happen again too. And I asked my mom too, like, how was that? Because as a kid, you know, you feel one thing, but now that I'm a parent and I have children of my own, and I just can't even imagine what that would have felt like to be the mom who is struggling and wondering how they are going to provide a Christmas for their kids, which I know it's not about the gifts and things, but as a mom, you still want to provide that for your kids. And she just said, like, she was just so grateful, and it was hard because she didn't know who it was. And she said she would remember just opening the door And every time a bag would come, she would just yell out, "Thank you, Merry Christmas," because that's all she could do. And she wished that she could say thank you, And so I guess this is me saying thank you. I have no idea who it was, but yeah, it was just really, really special. And it just is one of those things ever since as a kid, as I got a little bit older and was a teenager, I said, I want to do this one day. Like, I know how much it meant to my mom, to my family, and I want to be able to provide that. I want to be able to do that. And, I have not dropped off bags and bags and bags of presents, but I do feel like there have been times throughout my married life with my husband. Thankfully, he is also a very generous person with a very loving heart, and he also finds it important to be able to do things like this. And so we've been able to do, our own versions of some things like this, and it is special. And I hope that, yeah, my dream is one day to be able to drop off for an entire family, just, provide this magical Christmas like we were able to get as a kid. And one day I'll get there. One day I'm going to do that. I don't know when or whatever, but it's definitely left an impression on my heart. Okay, so I talked about that for a while. I could talk about it a long time. I could talk about a lot of things for a long time, you guys. That is why I started a podcast, because I love to talk. And apparently I can hear myself talk for a long time too. This is also random. When I was talking to my mom, we were reminiscing about other Christmases in the past, and she had reminded me of just some funny experiences too. And I just thought I would share one of those, which was that my great grandma, who was just lovely, as she was getting old and knew she was getting old, she decided that she wanted to get rid of stuff in her house. And she would give away things for gifts quite often. In fact, there was one time we were having like a family get together reunion. I'm not quite sure what it was. And she gave all of us gifts. And I do not remember what my gift was. But my brother opened up his gift, and my grandma was just so excited. And she was like, "It's a boomerang. You can throw it and it comes back to you." And, just like, wow. Anyway, we're all looking at my brother and this gift that he has. We're just a little bit confused, and we look at my grandma and we're like, no, it was not a boomerang. What it actually was the bottom part of a hockey stick. And none of us had the heart to tell my grandma. We were just like, yeah, boomerang. And this, like, we were young. Anyway, just funny things like that. Just constantly giving stuff away from her house. And she also had a bunch of old makeup. My mom said it was called Ovation, which sounds right, but then I tried Googling it and it wasn't coming up. But it still sounds right. Anyway, she had like all these makeup samples, and she was giving them away. And so my sister opened up her makeup. I'm not quite sure what it was. This was Christmas. She opens up her Christmas gift and it's makeup, and I don't know if it was eyeshadow, blush, who knows, a foundation. But it came with a little makeup brush in it, and my sister pulled out the brush and touched the makeup, and it just went poof, and just like disintegrated into a little cloud of dust. And my grandma's just sitting there like, yeah, I don't know. And we just had to laugh. And so it's stuff like that too. Like, there can be special Christmas memories, but then there's also ones that are just, they stick in your mind as just funny and things you remember. And I also have like special Christmas gifts that I like think about, and I loved giving a specific gift, or I loved receiving a specific gift. Gifts are my love language, by the way, so I remember them. Anyway, and yeah, I just love memories around Christmas. But what I really wanted was stories from you. And so I asked for you to write them in. I said, you don't have to interview with me. I just will take the stories and I will read them. And so that is what I am going to do. We have a few different stories. Again, I'm so grateful for the people that took the time to write in. And I really, just really loved it. So here are some of their stories. I know you are probably asking for a memory as a kid or something like that, but mine is when I was in Afghanistan. We had got into a firefight on Christmas Eve. Later that night, we were all celebrating and just wishing that something would happen so we could get a break on actual Christmas. And we woke up the next morning with almost a foot of snow in the Middle East. And it was one of the calmest days of that whole 16-month deployment. I love that because of course, I can imagine it was difficult being away on Christmas in Afghanistan. And so to have something that feels like a small miracle and to feel like it was a very calm day during your deployment when there was a lot of other days that did not feel calm, I really love that for you. I think the year was 2000. My husband and I were young with 2 young children. Our son would have been 5 and our daughter would be almost 2 years old. Earlier that year, we had purchased our first home and moved to a small community outside of Boise, Idaho. Our daughter had been born with neurofibromatosis and had pseudoarthrosis of the tibia in her left leg. She had 2 surgeries for rods in her tibia and wore an orthopedic brace for support. We frequented her orthopedic surgeon and prosthetist's office regularly for checkups, x-rays, and adjustments to the brace. That year, as we were preparing for Christmas, we purchased many of the items for our daughter on Amazon. Amazon had only been around for about 5 years at that point, but had already developed quite a delivery system. Nevertheless, as Christmas drew closer, we worried that most of the items would not arrive until after Christmas. We did not have the resources to go out and purchase more gifts. Plus, she was young, so we hoped it would be okay. We already had all her brother's gifts, so we were a little worried how that would work out, with him having a lot more gifts than her. I was trying to think if we could give her any of his gifts. On Christmas Eve, we went to my in-laws' home as we always do. We enjoyed the time with my husband's parents and siblings, singing songs, opening gifts, and enjoying good food. We hoped that by some miracle, Amazon would have shipped our packages and they would be waiting for us when we got home. As we arrived home that night, we could see that indeed there were items on our front porch. Thinking it was our packages, we went to retrieve them, only to realize it was not our packages we had been expecting. While we were gone, members of our new ward, our church congregation, not knowing our situation, had left wrapped gifts and a Christmas dinner on our porch. We were amazed and touched. Someone had been thinking of us, and our daughter would have a Christmas after all. It might seem like such a small thing, and really doesn't matter so much to have gifts for a child so young. I'm sure she would have been fine without gifts, but for me, it felt like God was showing us that He knew us and that we were loved and cared about. It was a stressful time with all her appointments, and it felt nice to be loved and thought of. On Christmas Day, when she opened her gifts, she had received a stroller and a baby doll to go with it. I felt sad because my daughter had never shown much interest in dolls before, and I was thinking, oh, that's too bad. Someone had gone to all that trouble and she probably won't use it much. There must have been something about that doll that connected with my daughter, though, because she loved that doll. She was always carrying it around the house with her and took it with her everywhere we went. She had to bring it with her to the stores, to her appointments, and even to church. I think it brought her a lot of comfort. That is the most tender part of all this story to me. I never would have bought a doll like that for her, but God knew what she needed, and someone acted on the inspiration, and an unknown need was fulfilled. She kept that doll with her for many years. I think it was the best gift she ever received. It still brings tears to my eyes this day whenever I think of the miracle of a doll that brought a little girl so much joy and comfort in a difficult time of her life. That was like bringing tears to my eyes. That was such a sweet story. I just love that because of somebody else's kindness, it truly blessed and changed the life of a little girl and the mom. Because yes, the gifts, it would have been okay had she not gotten the gifts as a 2-year-old, and the gifts would have come and they still could have given her the ones that they had originally bought. But the fact that this doll that she never would have gotten otherwise brought her so much joy and comfort through all her appointments and all the things. It's just so sweet. And I'm so thankful that that person got her that doll. There once was a Christmas when I was about 12 that my older sister, who was about 16 at the time, took us out to go to the dollar store. My sister explained to me and my younger siblings that there were a lot of people that shopped for Christmas at the dollar store because it was cheap and affordable there. She explained to us that she wanted to help anybody who might be in need during the Christmas time and pulled out some of her personal money that she made from babysitting and gave us all about $5 each in $1 bills. We each went around the dollar store and hid the dollar bills in different areas around the store. Inside of oven mitts or behind a pack of candy bars. It was so much fun and something that I think about often. She knew at such a young age that we were fortunate to be able to afford Christmas and she wanted to give back. She is still such a great example to me. Oh my gosh, that is the sweetest story. I love your sister. What I like so much about this story is it is clear that she is not doing it for the recognition, because she has no idea, or had, I guess, no idea who was going to be getting the dollar in the oven mitt, the dollar behind the candy bar, whatever it may be. She did it knowing that it was purely just for helping somebody else, bringing somebody else joy. I love that so much. And I can only imagine that she's probably still that person and how she's probably blessing other people's lives. Growing up, my family never had a lot of money. I am grateful that we never went hungry and we had a lot of love in our home, so I wasn't lacking. But of course, every kid looks forward to the magic of Christmas morning and what it may hold. It was typically quite modest beneath our tree. One year, when finances were particularly tight, fear of losing our home was a much stronger feeling than hope of any magic on Christmas morning. My brother and I were watching a movie in the living room one evening, a week or so before Christmas, and we heard a knock at the door. My brother opened it up, and I heard him excitedly shout, "Mom!" So I ran over to look. Our porch, all 4 stairs leading to our walkway, and a portion of our walkway was covered in wrapped gifts and food. I remember feeling so baffled at the staggering amount covering our porch, wondering how anybody could have possibly gotten it all there without us hearing a sound, being just on the other side of the door. I was also confused about where they were. My brother opened the door fairly quickly after the knock, but there was no one in sight. Even still thinking about it as an adult, it feels like magic. My brother started picking things up and shoveling them in the house as quickly as possible, trying not to let in the winter cold, but it felt like forever because of the amount of items. The gifts weren't generic. They were labeled for us personally. On Christmas morning, I opened up clothes that were my size. I received jewelry that I never would have had otherwise. Things for my hair, family games, and movies. We ate food that was left for us for weeks. My family still refers to that year as our big Christmas. We never figured out who it came from. I still wish I knew so that I could thank them, but I guess that would ruin some of the magic. Obviously, I can relate to this story so much. I love it. I just love it. And even the part of the story where they talked about, I received jewelry that I never would have had otherwise. It just reminded me, I know I said, we got gifts for my family a few times. And there was one year that I opened my gifts and there was perfume, which I did not wear perfume. That was a very expensive thing to have. I just did not have it. And it was in this fancy little bottle, and I didn't feel cool enough to have it. I was like, oh my gosh. And it was expensive. And I remember my sister was very she knew what was cool. And she was like, "Mandy, that is a nice perfume." And I mean, she would wear it all the time. She loved it too. And I just was like, wow, I never would have gotten this otherwise. And just feeling so grateful. People are so generous and kind. And I just love that, especially this year where there was a fear of losing their home, that they could have the magic of Christmas happen to them. This one is called My Amazing Mall Christmas Miracle. Many years ago, I loved to participate in the day after Thanksgiving sales. On Thanksgiving Day, I would spend hours perusing the ads in the newspaper that came out that day. I would plan what stores I was going to and what gifts I was planning to purchase. My wife and I would often coordinate together so we could divide and conquer. On one of these days after Thanksgiving, I set out to purchase a particular toy I found in my stack of ads for one of my boys for Christmas. The toy I wanted was in the toy store in our local mall. As I arrived at the toy store, I noticed that the line for the store's cashier snaked throughout every aisle in the store all the way to the entrance. You pretty much had to jump in line and you had one shot to grab your purchases. Since the line was quite long, it took about an hour and a half to get all the way through it. Fortunately, I found the toy I wanted quite early in the line. Waiting in line for such a long time, I struck up conversation with the man standing in front of me. We ended up chatting quite a bit, discussing our families, our jobs, and other topics. He had selected his purchase as well. During our conversation, I observed that he repeatedly checked his watch. Upon inquiry, he explained that he was expected to meet his wife at another store within a few minutes and was concerned about being late. At that time, cell phones were not widely available, making it difficult for him to contact her. To assist, I offered to complete his purchase and deliver it to his home after I was done shopping. He gratefully agreed to my proposal, gave me enough money for his purchase, wrote his address on the flyer I had in my hand, and left the store. I eventually got to the front of the line, made my 2 purchases, and left them all. I then got in my car and prepared to travel to my new friend's house so I could drop off his gift. However, I could not find the address he wrote down on one of my ads. I looked through my piles of ads several times and for the life of me could not find his address. I did not know what to do. I had to try and find him. I am an honest person and I did not want him to think I stole his money. To complicate things, I couldn't remember his name, though I did remember the part of town he lived in, so I decided to drive over to that neighborhood to try and find him. After arriving in the area of the city where my mall friend had indicated he lived, I selected a street and parked. I proceeded to knock on several doors in an effort to locate his home, but most were unanswered. One lady did answer the door, and I explained what happened, and she just looked at me like I was crazy, especially since I did not even remember my new friend's name. I went back to my car feeling a bit hopeless. I decided to pray. After my prayer, I felt inspired to try another street, and so I drove down the other street and parked my car. I knocked on the door to the first house I decided to go to. No one was home. As I was walking away from the house, I noticed the house across the street. It seemed a little peculiar because the house had 3 identical small red tricycles and 1 larger big wheel toy in the front yard. And then it hit me. I remembered my mall friend saying that he had triplet girls and 1 boy. I thought to myself, well, this had to be the house. What are the chances that this is someone else's home? So I walked across the street and knocked on the door of the house. Immediately after knocking on the door, my friend opened it. He was so excited to see me. He beckoned me to enter, which I did. Inside, I gave him his purchase, and he proceeded to tell his wife that this was the man he talked to her about earlier. He had me meet her. We talked for a bit together, and he thanked me profusely for making the purchase for him and dropping it off at their home. Eventually, I left their home and got into my car. As I sat down inside my car, I glanced over toward the passenger side where my ads were sitting, and there was the ad with my mall friend's address. I couldn't believe it. It was right there all along, and somehow I missed it before. As I drove home, I marveled at the little miracle that I had just experienced. It is amazing to me that the God of the universe cares enough about me to help me out with even a little thing, like needing to find an address for a friend so I can drop off a Christmas purchase. God is so good. He loves us so much. To me, it was a Christmas miracle. That truly is a Christmas miracle. I would have been panicking. And it definitely does not seem like coincidence to me that he would have gone to that street and seen the tricycles, and it just so happened to be that person. I do have to laugh a little bit. The lady that thought he was crazy, but seriously, that is crazy. Also, can we just talk about the way Black Friday used to be? Oh man, I miss it. I miss going through the ads and then picking the store, standing in the long lines. I mean, you can still look through ads and go to the store and stand in lines, but it's just not what it used to be. I want to bring back the old Black Friday. It was good times. Okay, here is our final story. When I was a teenager, our family spent Thanksgiving in Franklin, Idaho with our Jameson grandparents. When we pulled up to our home later that night, I remember looking out the window of our vehicle and seeing a beautiful full moon. It was so bright outside at such a late hour. Upon looking further, we saw there was furniture out on our front lawn. It was our furniture. Then we smelled smoke. I came from a very large family of 10 children. There were 8 of us children piled in the vehicle along with our parents. Our oldest brother was on a mission, and the next oldest brother had passed away the previous year in a motorcycle accident. Well, all 8 of his children, along with their parents, unloaded and followed Dad into the house. The lights didn't work, and immediately the smell of stale smoke was even stronger. There was water all over the floor, along with a crunching sound underfoot. We quickly adjusted our eyes to the dark, and along with a little light coming in from the moon, could see the front porch ceiling had gotten so hot that it had heated up the styrofoam tiles. That had then dripped down like stretched taffy, leaving strange stalactite formations on the ceiling and stalagmite formations that had cooled and hardened as sharp pieces of glass on the floor. We realized the water was from the firemen's hoses. A few of us ventured further into the house, even though Dad told us not to. I think we were all in shock and not thinking correctly. My brother David and I tagged along behind Dad. We rounded the corner near the hallway, and I slipped through the floor. My dad and David reached out and miraculously stopped me from falling into the basement. Dad immediately loaded us up in the car, and we headed to Grandma Arabe's house. I hope I'm saying that right. Needless to say, the home was seconds away from being totally engulfed in flames as the firemen arrived and bravely put out the fire. They had no way of getting in touch with us to let us know what had happened earlier that day. Well, anyway, it had gotten so hot that the finish on the grand piano must have reached a rolling liquid boil. After it had cooled, there were raised blisters and bubbles, which reminded me of some of the mud pots you see in Yellowstone National Park. I had left my flute in its case on the piano. The leather case had charred, and the thick plastic handle was deformed with swirls and ripples. In fact, a lot of plastic in the home had melted into the strangest patterns. I was a cheerleader at the time, and my plastic pom-poms in my closet had shrunk from 18 inches down to 4 inches. There were some items of clothing that the threads had melted and the fabric pulled apart when we touched them. Then came the long process of getting the home remodeled and ready for us to move back in. Our Grandma Arave had a small 3-bedroom home within a mile from where we lived. She graciously took us in. There was 1 bedroom for Grandma, 1 for my parents and youngest sister, and 1 for the other 7 of us. Imagine what bedtime must have been like for us. But oh, the stories we told at night. It was better than being on the Waltons TV show. This may age me, LOL. We were poor, but felt rich even with all of our struggles. We felt so blessed. None of us expected anything for Christmas. We were just happy to still have a home and to have such a patient and kind grandmother. We decided for our Christmas, we'd just write letters to each other. On Christmas Day, I looked out onto Grandma's front porch, and there was a big box full of gifts. They were all wrapped with a little note on each. I don't know who the givers were. None of us did. They obviously didn't know us, only our ages. My gift had a tag that read, "To the girl with the cold hands," and a warm heart. I still cherish and have those gloves. There was a cute little doll for my little sister who was only 2 at the time. My little brother Kevin got a small stuffed elephant, and my brother David got a really cool pair of striped bell-bottom jeans. This was in the 70s, so he was rocking in them. These special gifts all had a cute saying on them and meant so much to all of us. It stayed with me over the years, and as Christmas time rolls around once again, I think of the special gift of giving and receiving. When I lost my husband a few years ago, I was again the receiver of a very special gift. Someone brought me a bag full of gifts with accompanying short stories and messages to open and read each day until Christmas. Once again, no indication or hint as to who had been the giver of the sweet gifts that filled my soul with gratitude every day as I felt remembered and loved, in what would have been a very lonely first Christmas alone after 39 years of marriage. Even though I've been the receiver of these great gifts, I would like to add that this is the time of year we set aside to honor the birth of Christ, which is the greatest gift of all, and it is given to all people everywhere. He willingly and lovingly gave his life. May we cherish his love and recognize his hand in all things. And may we be his hands in the gift of giving and loving, serving and helping others this Christmas season and all year through. If I'm being honest, Anita shared that story with our church congregation on Sunday, and I thought it was so special, and it just warmed my heart so much that I reached out to her and I asked if I could share on the podcast, and I'm so grateful that she did. It was so tragic, but also just so beautiful. And I'm sure the memories that they made in that home were so great. And I'm sure there was a ton of them. And to be able to get those small but precious gifts that still hold so much meaning, I think is just amazing. And then again, to receive a special gift later once her husband passed, I love this time of year so much, and that is why I wanted to have people write in their stories, because I know a lot of the time we can just see the evil of the world. We get on social media and we see the next sad thing that's happening or the next bad thing that somebody's done, or we see comments and there's just so much negativity and people arguing and fighting back and forth with each other. And I just love this time of year so much because people are different and they give and they show love and they do more than maybe they normally would. And there is just a special feeling around Christmas. And I knew I would just love to hear stories like this where people's lives were like quite literally changed and there were lasting impressions on people. And whether it's a pair of gloves or it's a giant porch and walkway full of presents, it can all mean so much. And I also love that it really just makes us grateful for the things that we have in our lives and the people that we're surrounded with and the different things that we have. And, you know, even being grateful for snow on Christmas morning, like you're just so grateful for things. And I am really grateful for the people that wrote in those stories. I got tears in my eyes multiple times, and I know that there are so many people out there that have had experiences like this, and also just really cool experiences like that Black Friday experience. Just such a cool story. I personally would love to have more things like this on this podcast. And actually, when I started the podcast, it was kind of a goal of mine to have like once a month, a writer submission episode like this, where I post a prompt and people can write in different experiences that they have had regarding that prompt. And I've tried it a couple of times and it hasn't quite panned out, which is okay. But I am really grateful that this one did. And I was able to hear some of your stories. So if that's something that you think you would like, hearing stories from multiple people, you know, not interviewing them, but having them write in and having me read them, let me know. And maybe I'll try it again. I could try it again, and I think that it would be really fun, you know, just to have like once a month, something similar to this. So let me know what your thoughts are on that. I hope that you all have a magical Christmas. And, you know, maybe some of you will have an experience like this that is something that you would want to share with me on another time. I love you all. Thank you so much for supporting this podcast. It means so much to me. We will have one more episode before the end of the year, so I won't close out yet with my end of year gratitude. So until next week, where I will have another episode for you, we will talk to you soon. Goodbye and Merry Christmas, Sipsters.